Hello everyone. For Angular interviews, many times you will be asked different questions, and one of them is about decorators, specifically Angular decorators. And relative to your years of experience or your expertise, a interviewer can go in depth into it. You might be surprised with some details which we are going to talk about in today. Let's get started. If you are an experienced person in Angular, you might want to watch the second video which I have released today. It goes in depth of decorators and more about how it works and how you can create new decorators in Angular. If you are still here, let's start the interview. So, you are giving the interview today? Yes, I am. So, what's a decorator? And what does it have to do with Angular? Generally, I would start my interview with such simple questions. Check out how the interviewee responds. A decorator is a design pattern or a way to enhance or modify a class, method, property, or a parameter. Basically, it means that you need not modify the code, but if you declare something about a method or property or parameter or a class, you basically get a lot of functionality out of it. Okay, this is Google copy paste answer, by the way. Yeah, but what does it mean actually? See, if you have a requirement, there's a requirement where you talk about you have to log anytime a certain method is called or certain set of methods are called. Consider you are making an HTTP call and you want to log all of the HTTP calls when you are doing. Obviously you can add an interceptor, but you want to log different sets of method which were called or something like that. What would you do? Generally you will go ahead and add a console.log into each of these methods, right? But if we increase complexity a little bit and you say that you have to measure time, how much that method is taking, then you have to write a little bit of more of code in each method where it is written. Decorator comes in this place. If you can create a decorator which basically logs whenever method is called, and addition to that it can do other operations also, then you get a benefit of writing one decorator which you can declare, and then all of the places where you have code, you have your code implemented, that place you can simply declare that this method is of that custom kind of decorator. You have to understand the difference between these two. One thing when you write console log inside a method, and one thing is you declare a method to be of say custom decorator, and then you basically write console logs outside the method. One of the basic difference, you separate out the modification or enhancement of the method from the method itself. This kid knows stuff about decorator, but still I have some tricks up my sleeves. Let me ask him something about Angular. But how does this decorator relate to Angular? So decorator is not specifically an Angular thing. Decorator is a way which TypeScript has provided to enhance the capability of JavaScript. So what Angular does is it uses decorator. It has used that decorator to create its whole framework. We have NgModule, component, injectable, then pipe, directive, many things for a class. Then there are decorators about methods like host listener. If you add a host listener, you can enhance the property of a method. Then you have things which you can add to properties like input, output, view child, view children. Then again you have things like parameter decorators, where you can write @inject in a parameter of a constructor to inject an instance inside it. All of these decorators basically enhance an ordinary class, an ordinary method, an ordinary property to become part of Angular framework. Angular then enhances these properties, parameters, methods or classes to work with its framework. That's how Angular uses decorators inside it. Okay, so you have talked about many of the decorators out there. Can you talk about two class decorators which we use mostly in Angular? Instead of just talking to you about decorator, let me show it to you. So as you can see, we have NgModule Decorator. This, when you write something with @ and a kind of method declaration before any class, that is called a class decorator. And you have NgModule, one of them. Inside NgModule, you have lot of things which you can provide for a module or basically Angular to understand what this module is comprised of. As you know, Angular is comprised of modules, and modules can contain internally different components. It can import different modules, it can do a lot of things. Like declarations, in this part, this is an array where you declare, okay, my module has these many components. And then obviously you can add directives and pipes to it. Then you have imports where you say that, okay, my module is going to import different modules which we have created in our project or any third-party library, bring it to our code in our module, and then use it. Like if you are using something from Clarity, say, or you are using from Angular, consider we want to use platform browser. This contains many of the things internally which we use in our Angular project, like ngIf, ngFor. So if we want to include those, we add browser module. If we want to use reactive programming, we have to add reactive forms module, like we can say reactive forms module, to include that functionality from that module in our module. I am saying module too much. Then we have providers, where we say that we have a set of services that are singleton classes which have one instance, and I want to use those services in providers. At the end, for at least in application, one module should have a bootstrap, which basically says that my application will start, or this module will start with this component being rendered first. Second thing, obviously you can go ahead in your computer or any computer, you can go ahead and click this, and you will be taken to interface where you can see all information about what I am talking here. What are providers, what is provider array, declarations, and imports and other things, exports. So there is one more important thing which we should talk about. Consider you are creating a feature module where you have, say, 10 components. How do you expose them? How do you expose 2 of those components? You want to use 10 components to construct your module, but you want to expose 2 of them so that people from outside, or if main module, can use it. Let me show it here on the screen. So let's create a new module first. So as you can see, we have created our module and a component inside it. How we can expose it is in this following way. So in this way, basically I have used a feature module where I had one single component, and then I exported it, which my app module is using again. Let me show you how it affects in our application. If we go ahead and comment this out and try to save it and run it, let's see what happens. You can see we get an error here saying that error occurs in our template component, app component, right? It is saying that app feature child is not a known element. As soon as we enable it, we can see that our build was successfully compiled. That's how we use feature modules to export and import components. But we will not go into that much detail right now. Next one we can talk about is component. Component also contains lot of things to tell Angular what this class is about. First of all, declaring component over a class says that, okay, this is a component which Angular is going to use. Next thing is we say selector. Selector basically says that in our template file, in any template file, like in feature component, we had our app feature child as a selector, and that's what we used here in our template of app component. So basically selector says that in your template file, what name are you going to use? Template URL is basically saying that where my template file is present. You can use template here directly, inline template, or you can use template URL. Then you have style URLs where you say basically if you want to use a single CSS file or multiple of them. Also, if you go into component, you can see there are a lot of different things like change detection. There is another video which you can see, which I have produced, but in that one basically you can say, is it kind of on push strategy, or which strategy are you using for change detection? You have a lot of things. You can go about animations also. So consider you are using ngIf or ngFor for some elements, and you want to have animation when items come in and go out, right? In that case you can use animation modules or router animation also. So you have a lot of benefit of using directives. This simple thing which you wrote is what Angular uses to do it all its work. And decorator is a TypeScript feature. Again, it's not an Angular feature. Angular just uses that TypeScript feature and has created a complete framework around it. It's so powerful. Alright. And I think he's good. But I cannot lower my card down now, right? So I think at this point, right, about component and module, I think anyone can answer about that. Tell me something tricky. Why we use inject, not injectable, by the way. Injectable is for service. That's everyone knows that. At least you know that since you're answering so much easily. But what is inject used for? Let me show you that instead of just talking about it. So as you can see, we have used our inject here, and we have used any string token name. That token name I had kept in providers, and then I created a use factory method of provide, basically to return an object which contains test method, and then I simply called that test method here. This is how inject is used in Angular. Basically, inject can be used to insert anything in our component, create a basically singleton instance. If you have declared in providers, it can create a singleton instance of that, and then you can inject in your component. There are other ways also to use inject, but we'll not go into details that right now. Okay, so what if someone wants to use a custom decorator? Let's talk about that in next video. Thank you for watching this video. I have another video which I have launched today with this, where we are going to talk about how to create a custom decorator, how decorator works when it is transpiled to JavaScript, and then we are going to use our decorators to create a real world scenario. We are going to create an Angular like providers which we have here, where we are going to create a pool of singleton classes, and then we are going to use it. It's very exciting. I hope you check it out. Even if you are at basic level, I think you will get much more in-depth knowledge while watching that video. Thanks for watching this video. Please press like if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this content coming up. Thank you. This is Gaurav signing off.